perspective. And when I watched LaMarcus Aldridge last night, I'm like, man, LaMarcus Aldridge, this is not a good matchup for him against the Milwaukee Bucks. I watched Paul Millsap. I'm like, man, what's going on with Paul Millsap? And I'm not going to go crazy after one game, but Patty Mills was the one dude where I'm like, okay, that's added depth. That's added depth. I feel like I know what I'm going to get with Patty Mills. Everybody else, I'm not really sure, man. I'm not really sure.
It's one game, though,
That means, yeah, but it means KD and James Harden
got to do more.
Have to do a lot. Like, there's going to be a lot on their shoulders to carry that offensive load.
You know what I wonder about Harden?
You don't have Kyrie there.
Harden last year, to me, game for game, regular season, best player in the league. And then in the playoffs, KD was the best player game for game,
well,
right?
Harden was hampered, too, in the playoffs.
Yeah,
He still balled out.
Yeah. That wasn't Harden at the end. When he came back, it wasn't even really Harden. But in the regular season, he was amazing. But something occurs to me, Jay. D'Antoni was on the bench. Steve Nash was a first-year head coach, right? So D'Antoni knows this is what we're going to do with James Harden. Right away, it's like rolling out of bed for those guys. I wonder if D'Antoni not being there affects the equation at all.
Well, it definitely puts more pressure on Steve Nash and Jacques Vaughn, right? Jacques Vaughn was the head coach before Steve Nash got brought on board. But that offensive continuity is what you need in that system. But it's interesting. We always talk about who the best players are. You got to give credit to Giannis and the Bucks, man. Like, talk about a team who just knows who they are. Everybody knows what role they're in. It gives them an advantage at the beginning of the year because teams like the Nets, teams like the Lakers, they need to find that out throughout this journey. But there's certain teams like the Warriors and the Bucks, they know who they are. They know how they play. Guys know what roles they play on those teams.
But the Bucks really hadn't added anything, right? They're the same team that won a championship for the most part. All the same guys.
Minus addition to like PJ Tucker.
Yeah, but for the most part, they're the same guys, meaning like Drew's there, Giannis is there, Middleton's there, the coach is there. And on top of that, last night, they're getting their rings. It's a ring ceremony. They're playing a certain way. If you fast forward 4 weeks from now, do the Bucks look like they look, and do the Nets look like they look last night?
I'll tell you the one dude, and nobody's going to talk about him because we only talk about brand names, but Joe Harris, for signing that $70, $80 million deal, was abysmal towards the end of last year.
Yeah, he in the playoffs went away.
And last night as well, he was non-existent on the floor. So you talk about for how much attention KD and James Harden garner. You need a guy to space the floor. That's what Joe Harris was paid all that money to do.
You got to knock him down.
But all his career, he's shot the lights out. I don't think that just goes away.
Well, it went away last year.
It went away during the playoffs.
Well, that's a separate issue because you needed to step up in big games.
But it went away during the playoffs, and it went away last night. He carried the end of the season into the first game.
Yeah.
People usually don't do that.
You know something? When you
Wow, I just heard he shot the same percentage as Ben Simmons from the three-point line in the playoffs.
That's amazing.
What?
That's amazing.
Are you sure about that, Yates?
Well, I mean, I'm sure.
Ben Simmons shot a 3 in the playoffs?
Nah, that's the point.
That's the point.
Listen, when you watch the Olympics, right? Team USA, if you saw that roster to begin a season, you'd be like, they're going to run away with the championship. And they were struggling early on in the Olympics. Why? Because they're playing teams that have played together for 10 years. Yeah. They just got thrown together. You have to give – am I wrong, Jay? Don't you need to give time for the – even it doesn't matter how much talent you have to gel as a team?
You do. But it's like when you see a team that relies upon KD and James to do so much, it starts to make you think, all right, if this bench is not what it is, man, I'm telling y'all, Miami has a chance to cause a lot of noise in the East. And you can overlook Miami, but last year they were destroyed by COVID – but you still got Jimmy Butler there. Tyler Hero looked great in the preseason. I think he can step up. Depending upon Victor Oladipo, if he comes back, being healthy, PJ Tucker adds that defensive discipline to them. PJ Tucker was the reason why the Bucks beat the Nets last year with the way he defended KD in the playoffs. And then you add Bam Adebayo. I mean, they are a team that will be in that upper echelon.
Well, the real reason
they got a nice coach too.
Eric Spoelstra, yes.
The real reason championship coach. The real reason the Nets lost is because they weren't healthy. Like they didn't have their guys. And what I wonder about Kyrie, the reason I'm thinking about him, not just because right now he's not there, but because he was a guy throughout his career where you saw consistently at times like, damn, you add him to the Celtics, they somehow get worse. What's up, Kyrie? And that happened a couple different times in his career, even in Brooklyn. Then they brought in KD and Harden. And Kyrie, to me, clearly makes this team much better. And I wonder, Jay, if it's not because he's sort of even though he has so many point guard skills, his nature is like he's a 2 trapped in a 1's body. With Harden there running the offense, it in a way maybe frees Kyrie up to be the player he really is and might be the key ingredient to this team.
Let me put you on something, Max. In basketball, we no longer call players 1, 2s, 3s, or 4, right? There are hybrid guards, there's combo guards, there's point centers, there's point forwards. Like there's a whole new terminology around
or something.
Yeah, the way guys are really evolving into play. Like with KD, Kyrie, and James, you have 2 combo playmaking guards, right? Combo playmaking guards combined with the most efficient scorer the game has ever seen at 7 feet tall. So you take away one of those weapons, they can still get there. You just need 2 of those weapons to do a lot more.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, presented by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. ProgressiveCommercial.com.
In our continuity offense and 11 new players for the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James, year 19. I mean, for him to be 37 years old, turning 37 in December, to have the points he did last night, I might have to recalibrate my MVP conversation because I think he will be in that conversation. But look, Carmelo Anthony at times, a defensive liability on the floor for them down the stretch in the fourth. It's going to take time for this team to find out what their identity is defensively and offensively. And Russell Westbrook, look, we talked about this yesterday, always starts off slow. He's a ball-dominant guard. Now he has to share that responsibility with LeBron. That's going to take time for this team to find.
Yeah. Everything's going to be a mess in the first half of the season. Wait till the second half. Here is LeBron James at the post-game presser on Westbrook's struggles.
I just think it was just the first game jitters, to be honest. I don't put too much into it. Probably was a lot just going through his mind, just being a kid from L.A. and, watching the Lakers growing up, and then however many years down the road, now you're putting on a Laker uniform and you're stepping into Staples Center, and you probably had – I can only imagine how many friends and family have contacted him over the last 48 hours wondering if they could come and see his first game as a Laker. Those things, those demands and those asks and those things will quiet down as the season go on and on. So not worried about Russ at all.
I love it. I love the way LBJ protects his teammate. There's no question about it. But I don't think it's first game jitters being at home. He's at home all the time. He sees those people all the time. I just think that he just had a bad game. Much like you say, Jay, as the NBA expert on this particular show, is that he starts slow. And when he starts slow, he then in the second half picks up and becomes an MVP-type candidate the second half of the season. When you look at Russell Westbrook's career, this is what now, Jay? His third team in less than 12 months? A little more than 12.
Yeah, more than 12
months. So when you look at Houston, Washington, now the Lakers, that's 3 different teams in a little bit over 12 months. He's got to get used to playing with those guys. No matter what you say, training camp is not going to get you there. The course of the season is.
It's going to happen with this team, man. Look, age, I think they're going to be fine. Like, no need for knee-jerk reactions today. You know how it is. What's wrong with the Lakers? What's wrong with Russell Westbrook? It was the first game. Obviously, there's some stats that are glaring, right? Like, they're minus 23 in his 35 minutes. They're plus 16 in his 13 minutes while he's on the bench. But those are going to be tweaks that LeBron James and Frank Vogel are going to have to make.
But isn't that because AD and LeBron has played together? What is this, the third year now playing together? AD and LeBron. Westbrook ain't
11
playing.
New players. That's what I'm saying.
It's like, come on, man. We
Every
good,
year,
though. We got 81 more, man.
This is the fourth consecutive season that Russell Westbrook is playing on a new team with new teammates. It's the same thing every year. Like, you got to blame yourself after a while if you fall for this. It's not going to be pretty in the first half of this season. He will get it figured out. He always does. There's someone who doesn't have to worry about first game jitters because he won.